So the release of Stella Sora's 2nd anniversary, Otoha is finally gonna make Umbra team a lot stronger compared to what they once was before, able to compete with the other elements as of this current moment. Hey guys, MrPokke here. So today we are going to be going through the pretty much best free-to-play Otoha guide, going through their teams, discs, build, how do you use her, the rotations, and so on and so forth. So in summary, Otoha is mainly going to be used as a versatile Umbra unit for an Umbra Vanguard, namely Firenze at the moment. She's similar to Nazuka's role in a Ventus team in terms of a sub DPS, and she's able to deal a lot of damage in that regard. Overall, she has substantially improved the weaker Umbra team's performance in the meta relative to the other elements, and so at this moment, Umbra can definitely start holding on their own, especially given the current endgame content we have as of this moment, with both sides of boss splits being weak to Umbra. So for Otoha's character kit, she is going to be focusing mainly on a versatile unit, and as you can see from the potential, she does have the main and support build, but generally speaking, almost every single time, you are definitely going to be running her in a support role, because our main DPS role is definitely going to be filled up by Firenze. So between the both different support builds, it's going to be split between ultimate as well as skill damage, which I'll be talking about a little bit later, but generally speaking, kind of just take a look at her abilities. For the support build one, she is going to be focusing on your ultimate damage, which will reduce your ultimate cooldown and gaining energy on top of your ultimate damage as well as ultimate crit rate. And then for Nightwalker, it will summon Doomfall, which is essentially like an additional attack, dealing AoE damage and also giving you energy. So majority of the rotations you're going to be getting is going to be spamming her ultimate when you're going to be in combat, right? And then for Solitary Lantern, it's going to give you additional chance to shoot more as well as even more ultimate crit rate, just to make her ultimate damage go up even higher, right? Then without a trace, it's going to increase the ultimate damage, and the Holo Set is going to be increasing all the ultimate damage. So pretty much the entire first row, it is purely entirely focusing on your ultimate. And then for the second row, it's pretty much going to be focusing on your skill damage. So Ripple of Shadow is going to be when Weeping Sky advances, your additional bombardments for AoE damage, which has increased defense pen as well as your personal skill damage. And then for the Evening Rain, there's going to be where your defense penetration by Weeping Sky is going to go up even higher, and then this can also synergize with your level 6 Rain Woven Sorrow, which will further increase your skill damage as well as reducing the movement speed, so that they can actually get an even better grouping when you're going to be casting the skill. Bone Chilling is just going to be an increased Umbra damage taken, which means that your entire team's Umbra damage is going to be going a lot higher because it's going to be a vulnerability debuff. And an Inevitable End is going to be increasing your damage against pretty much boss fights. Not as important, especially if you're going to be using her in non-boss fight scenarios. And then for the generic builds over here, this is going to be a very normal Umbra damage, and this is going to be giving you more Umbra damage. Silent New gives you additional Umbra Gloom, which will be another mark for your team to use. And then for this is going to be increasing your ultimate's pool, so you can actually pull in targets to the middle if you're going to be going for a main DPS ultimate build, but not going to be as important. Ultimate Downers for Dark Shackles, which is something called, Ultimate Down is something where you can bind the enemy in place for 5 seconds, which could be very good for bosses that are going to be moving on too much. And then Moonlit Edge is going to be increasing your personal attack, right? So if you just take a look at your personal skills, base attack is not going to be that important. The main skill are pretty much never going to use because you're going to be focusing mainly on a versatile role. So your support skill as well as the ultimate is going to be your #1 order of skill priority. So for the support skill, you are basically going to be dealing a lot of multi-hit single target damage on top of inflicting this gloom mark over here, which means that her personal damage, when you combine this with a skill damage build, can be very substantial. And then for the ultimate, is just a very large umbrella, just dealing huge damage overall. 40-second cooldown with 358 energy cost. Currently, there are two main paths to play around her, either the ultimate build or the skill damage build. So jumping straight into the build, for the ultimate build, you're going to be focusing on the cooldowns and damage of the ultimate while providing ample buffs to teammates such as defense penetration and umbral damage while inflicting damage taken to the enemies. This has extremely good utility with damage, which Firenze's team lacked with Mystique previously, which is why her damage is not going to be as high as compared to back then. So an example for the ultimate damage build is definitely going to be going for the Lonely Twin Shadows as well as Nightwalker, going for the level 6 Solitary Lantern as well as Without a Trace. You have a couple of other generic traces like Devouring Shadow, Silent New as well as Murmur of Annihilation, but the top row is going to be the #1 priority. And then for the skill damage build, it's going to be focusing more so on Otoha's personal damage. While there are similarities in the potentials, most of the core potentials will be focusing on stacking damage while applying a personal defense pen on every single support skill inflicted on the enemies. Damage-wise, it's gonna be similar to Nazuka and performs slightly better than the ultimate build as the damage stats are extremely high. So from this build, you are gonna be focusing mainly on Ripple of Shadow as well as Evening Ring, getting the level 6 Rain Woven Sorrow as well as the level 6 Bone Chilling Ring. Then moving on into her emblem, I would say that some of the best scenarios are they're going to be mainly focusing on the classic Umbra penetration as well as skill or ultimate damage depending on the path overall. So this is going to be my build you guys can see over here. For our emblem at level 70, we have derivative damage, charge efficiency, skill damage as well as Umbra pen. Our number one priority is always going to be Umbra pen, so ideally get this to as high as possible. And then for the level 80 emblem, you're going to be going for the ideally support skill or ultimate skill, then skill damage or ultimate damage, and an Umbra pen as well as Umbra damage. So a very straightforward build, just getting as many levels on your support skill as well as the ultimate as far as possible, and ideally you get yourself this Umbra penetration on the slot too, right? And then for your last emblem at level 90 is gonna be ideally getting Devouring Shadow +3 and Bone Chilling +3. If you want more ultimate damage, you could just go for a Solitary Lantern +3, or if you are gonna be going for more skill damage, you can go for Rain Woven Sorrow +3. And then for the Murmur of Annihilation, you're definitely going to be going from between 1 to 3 if possible. And if you cannot get any of these levels, you can just go for even more Umbra damage or skill and ultimate damage. So to recap everything, your number one priority is going to be for Umbra pen as well as Umbra damage, followed by your support skills, and for level 90, ideally getting as many levels on your Devouring Shadow, Bone Chilling as much as possible, and then more ultimate for Solitary Lantern, then more skill for Rain Woven Sorrow. Now moving on into Otoha's dupes or her talents. For the T1, this is going to be the best dupe to go for if you have the extra fun, as it will give you additional damage taken up to 14.1% at maximum stacks, which is just going to be the highest amount of value you're going to be getting from a T1. For her T2 is pretty much just going to be crit damage, which honestly is very negligible, especially if you're going to be running her alongside with a unit as far as the Fire Renze, although you might want to consider this if you want to just go for the main DPS, especially if you're going to be going for the skill damage build. And then for the T3 is going to be boosting the damage for your friendly minions, which is honestly not too bad for a Fire Renze minion build, but as of this moment, minion build is just not going to be doing too well, so I wouldn't say it's going to be that crazy. And then for T4, it's going to be more personal damage when a team triggers mark, so 20% damage is going to be very nice. And then for the last one at T5 is going to be your personal damage to harder content bosses, which is pretty much going to be Stella Sora's endgame. For every single endgame in this game, it is always going to be elite and above, mainly going to be your boss blitz as well as any of the special events that we're going to be seeing. So I would say, generally speaking, for Otoha's talents, T1 is going to be the best stopping point, and any more is just going to be additional damage boost by herself. Now, moving on into the disc for Otoha, let's just first talk about the brand new Umbra disc, which is going to be from the event. It will give you skill damage buff to the team when the main tracker will deal damage, which is going to be quite nice, especially if you're going to be going for a skill damage Otoha build. And then for personal disc, which is going to be the one where it's going to be the rate up, it will increase your team damage, and every single time a versatile tracker deals damage, it can stack up to 20, which at maximum stacks will give you a 20% damage taken. Other than these two discs, you can also go for the Wisteria Dream, which is going to be Fire Renze's disc, focusing more on the minion damage build, which isn't going to be as important because at this moment, Fire Renze does run on the skill damage build. If you are going to be going for another alternative, you could also consider the Mystique disc, which is going to be focusing more on doubling effect, while its buff is going to be towards your friendly units counting minions. And then last but not least, it's going to be the Battle Pass Dream Factory of the Truth, increasing Umbra damage as well as reducing damage taken from the enemy just so that you take a little bit lesser damage. So that is pretty much gonna be that for our Otoha guide. Generally speaking, from my performances I found with her endgame content, ultimate damage, the build that I have as of this current moment is gonna be dealing more than my skill, but it's also because that my emblem is not gonna be as good. Theoretically speaking, like I mentioned, if you do have the right tracers as well as the right builds for the Ascension run, your skill damage should be doing slightly marginally more than your ultimate if you have the right build. But as you can see from my run over here, even if you do not have the right build, ultimate damage can still deal a substantial amount of damage from the current boss blitz. As of this moment, we also have the latest summit show, which is going to be pretty much like contingency contract, if you guys know what that means. So I kind of want to see how high we can actually take this on a separate video, especially running our brand new Otoha guide, right? So with that, we've pretty much come to the end of today's content. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below if you're going to be pulling for her. All the best with our gacha pools. Use code POINT for 10% off gamer subs, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.